All right, Nissan, listen up. Are you paying attention? Look what you've created. Have you guys seen those renderings that a few fans have created of what a potential R36 GT-R could look like? They all kind of look like an R34. I think we all can agree the R34 is infinitely more fun to drive and gives you that prompt to actually look back at it in the parking lot, right? So while some have been drawn to the R35 for its technological and engineering advancements, others, like myself, are drawn to the R34 for the nostalgia and the rawness of the car itself. Now, while all of that's been happening, regardless of what camp you sit in, right, our friend Adam Trinder has taken it upon himself to push boundaries and create a car that confuses us all, and that's exactly what's sitting behind me. Let's go for a drive.
Adam Trinder, owner-operator, AMT Machine Fab Shop here in Vancouver, BC. And this is the R34.5. This swap has been done before. As we all know, there's another YouTuber that has done this build. Me and my customer, we had this planned long before, and we're waiting for the cars to come in, one from Japan and then finding the right R35. We didn't want to use anything crash damage, so both cars are good drivers. There was no rust on the 34, there was no mechanical problems on the 35, and we thought we could do a better job, and that's where we started.
Wow, yeah, that's an R35. That is a VR38 distinctive in the way it sounds and pulls and shifts gears. So naturally, I have a few questions about this build, you know. One, is it going to rattle? Is it going to feel like a cohesive package, or is it literally going to feel like just two cars sandwiched together and as an afterthought to be able to drive properly, but really being a show car? But if I know Adam as well as I think I know Adam, he would not build a car like that. Every vehicle that I have known Adam to build, it's been completely drivable and livable on the street. With a few exceptions. Of course, the trike he built was maybe not livable, it was drivable though. Cars that take a lot of patience to build and cars that defy what your mind would expect to see when you open the door, or when you pop the hood, or anything like that, or when you hear it and then you see it and it's not what you would expect. And if that's the case, that is a huge undertaking, because the R34, why I say it's infinitely more fun to drive, is largely due in part to the fact that it is a smaller vehicle. Much like the 997 to the 991, I feel like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that's when vehicles peaked in terms of the mesh between tech and analog feel. And that's really what Adam's going for, taking the drivability, the daily drivability of an R35, the technological advancements, much of that being in the way the all-wheel drive system works, and as well, of course, the transaxle, the transmission being in the rear for weight distribution, and all that, and hopefully the reliability of the VR38 paired with the iconic presence of an R34 on the road. This car looks ridiculous, insane. If your ears are keen, you'll figure it out, but if the car's just parked, you'll never know. That was Adam's goal. Adam's goal was for the average passerby, or even if you're into cars, to not know that this wasn't an R34.
So basically what I said to the customer when the two cars came to my shop, I'm like, look, you're bringing two cars in, you're leaving with one car because one's going to be completely destroyed, and there's an off chance you might end up with no cars. And he was willing to take the risk, and so was I. It started with the 34. We basically cut the entire floor out, cut the front clip off of it, and took out the firewall, so it was just a bare shell. And then the 35, it was cut the body off completely, and then it was a matter of careful trimming, very precise trimming. I had the 35 under the 34 on the hoist, and it was just going up and down until everything lined up perfectly and the gaps were minimal and just big enough to weld with no filler panels or anything. So this car now is fully seam welded. It is one piece, and it is, for all intents and purposes, a complete R35. That being said, I've also added a structural reinforcement plate. So it's 6 inches tall. It's the length of the car, well, this part of the car, and it's 3/16 thick, and it's solid steel plate that runs that whole length. So the inner rocker of the 35 is welded to that. The inner rocker of the 34 is also welded to that. So that gives us a solid structure on the outside. When the body was off the 35, it was a matter of getting the 34 lights and integrating all that stuff to make that all work and function properly. The hard part was getting the 35's electronics in the doors to work properly. So I've got R35 window regulators on the 34's window mechanism. I've got the 35's push lock unlock buttons in the door, so there's no more key. The 35 is 4.5 inches roughly longer wheelbase, so the wheelbase had to be shortened, and that was a headache. So this car was cut just behind the front seats all the way across. I took 4.5 inches out, fully seam welded it, put extra gusset plates in there. But by doing that, I had to shorten the drive shafts, front and rear. I had to shorten the fuel lines, shorten the brake lines. I had to shorten the handbrake cables. I had to reroute the shifter cable. Then on the interior, the center console had to be shortened and look seamless like it was never done. So the hardest part of the job is doing that, getting it perfect to where it needed to be, having the wheels centered into the wheel arches. But once that was sorted, the rest of it was, I wouldn't say a breeze, but it was a lot easier.
And it rides nice. There is no rubbing, there's no scraping, there's no squeaks or rattles. I can't hear anything. And I'm not exaggerating. It doesn't just feel, it doesn't just look like factory, it feels factory fit and finish here. And traction control so far has been kicking on way more than it would in a standard R35, and I think that probably has something to do with the wheelbase. Not only that, the width of the car, the entire R34 width, track width, is narrower. So this Uras wide body kit that's on here, combined with the Porsche chalk gray, beautiful color, love the way this looks on the carbon, was necessary. What R34 purists really want out of the next GT-R is a smaller, more authentic driving experience, rather than stuffing it with tech and weight. I mean, the R35 doesn't even have batteries, and it is a heavy vehicle. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the R34 rad support and all the lighting, mounting points and stuff, that's all factory R34, correct?
That's all factory R34. But there's also the 35 rad support there too.
Yes, carbon.
The cool thing with the 35 is the nose is shorter. There's less overhang on the 35. So I can fit a lot of stuff in the front of the 34. So this here, yes, this is the 34's rad support with the mountings for the lights. This is the 35's. So I had to do a couple of little brackets here that mount the two together. Mm-hmm. We've got the drop mounts here that go to the stock 35 35 frame rail nose, and then I've got an extra reinforcement bar here which holds the hood latch in place. So this is a 34 hood latch with the 35 cables running to the 35 pull handle, which incidentally is exactly the same pull handle as a 34. And on the other note of weird stuff that is cross compatible, a lot of the light socket plugs were the same and they plugged in, which is cool. And the interior door latch mechanism is the same and it bolts right into the 34 doors.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, people say the R35 is like an old car because it came out 07, but think about it, 02 when the 34 stopped, and 07, that's not a long time.
Yeah. Also with mounting the body, as you can see here, this is how precise some of this stuff is. So the fenders are mounted right to the 35. There's no spacer, there's no grinding and shimming. Like, it lined up. Also in the trunk, the 35 trunk floor and the 34 trunk floor matched perfectly.
Wow. And
the frame rails were almost perfectly lined up.
Planted. It's very cold out today too, you guys, so. Oh yeah. Wow, it just wants to spin. It wants to spin so bad. We're making about 540 wheel horsepower. Even if I had like a blindfold on, it would be really difficult, I feel, to actually tell the difference between this and an R35. Like, it feels very much R35. It's just when you begin pushing it even a little bit, the rear end is so much more alive than it was like when I drove an R35. And again, it's been a couple years since I've driven one, so it's not back to back, take that into consideration, but my God, is this just a phenomenal creation, so.
Okay, so the windshield is a bit of a trick. The 35, with where you sit and the way the window rakes out, gives you a pretty long dash. If you look at the dash here, so the 35 dash comes down to this line here. And then this part of the cowl I had to extend. So this is a welded steel piece that goes across that I wrapped in vinyl, so it all looks seamless as one. The cowl was extended about 4.5 to 5 inches. Stock 34 window, stock 35 window wipers. The other YouTuber on his setup didn't have window wipers, and I wanted to retain all that stuff. So I've got the 35 window wipers working. I also got the rear 34 wiper to work, which is pretty trick. And then I had to do the washer squirters are on the 34, they're on the hood.
Yes.
On the 35, they're on the wiper blades. But I wanted to keep them on the hood, the holes were already there. So just ran the pipe, we got that sorted, and then made some ABS plastic cowls just to fill in the areas. But yeah, like having the hood be able to close without chopping anything under the hood, it all clears, that was key.
Mm-hmm.
When we first pieced this together, we used the factory steel fenders, the factory steel hood, just so I could get the panel gaps perfect. And then we got the body kit, and body kits being carbon fiber and fiberglass, they never fit perfect. But I wanted to be sure that everything lined up properly with the steel stuff. That way I knew I was on point with my measurements and that everything was good. This is all secondary, like some of the gaps are a little bit meh, but that's body kit stuff. The customer already had the kit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
that's funny.
That kit was gonna be going on the 34 anyway, regardless if we did the body swap or not. There are some tweaks that needed to be done to it, but for a factory kit, it fit pretty darn nice. The rear over fenders, of course, with those, you got to cut out the factory inner or factory fenders and trim them for wheel clearance and all that stuff. They were all welded back together, seam sealed and everything. Everything's waterproof, everything's solid. Then we used the aftermarket 35 GT-R fender vents, Ganador style mirrors, and we've got complete Megan rear arms on this car. Bilstein shocks, which are the factory shocks, but we got upgraded spring rates. Brakes are standard. Oh, and we did lightweight tubular subframes. So all the stock stamped steel subframes have been removed in favor of these lightweight tubular ones, which give you more rigidity and much better handling. Even though we wide-bodied this 34, the track overall is still narrower. The wheels were a big thing. We wanted to run 18s. The 35 comes with like a staggered 20, and 20s on this looked ridiculous. And you'd have to run a rubber band for a tire, and that wasn't going to fly. That gives us better driving on the road. It's more supple. It's a daily driver. He drives this car all the time. So the 18s, these were actually custom made to our spec. There's not a lot of 18s that'll clear those massive 35 brake rotors and calipers. This is the wheel we came up with. It's a homage to the old Advan 3 spokes. And if you come a little closer, you'll see we got the 345 for 34.5 done in the center cap. The filler neck of a 35 comes out in the exact same spot as an R34. And I also wanted to modify the gas door because I hate wide body cars with a sunken gas door.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, so I made my own gas door that's flush to the kit, which is pretty sweet. A-pillars are obviously 34. Roof skin is 34, or headliner. But we painted this black. We wanted a full black interior. Usually these come in that weird gray color. And
yeah, 90s gray.
Yeah, 90s gray. We didn't like the 90s gray. We want to bring the car up a level, so did all that in black. So yeah, we had to obviously narrow the dash since we narrowed the car. So we took 2.5 inches off each side of the dash, which meant we had to re-trim the sides of the dash. So it's just a piece of ABS plastic that's been wrapped in the matching vinyl for the dash. The second piece that had to be done was this part here of the center console was shortened 4.5 inches to make up for that wheelbase loss. And then the speaker pod was also shortened about 1.5 inches down here, so the top would line up with the parcel shelf. We've done a complete rear seat delete in this thing because with the dash being back further, the front seats had to be back further and there's no legroom in the back. So it's a legit 2-seater. The other thing is seat belts are all 35. All the airbag sensors, all that stuff is still there, it's still intact. Driver airbag works.
Wow.
We had to delete the passenger airbag. It's there, but it's non-functional because we had to re-trim the top of the dash, and my upholsterer didn't feel comfortable that the airbag would blow through the new upholstery, so we've deleted the passenger airbag. Piece of resistance is the door cards. These were carbon fiber aftermarket R34 door cards that had been modified and molded with fiberglass to snugly fit around the dash. We did some custom pull handles and then GT3 style pulls for opening the door. The window switches are all the R35 window switches. We've got the R35 light in the door and then a full stereo. This thing has the full Bose GT-R stereo system in it, and that's all fully functional.
We'll look on the interior. Noticeably narrower. It is definitely narrower, which is why it kind of feels like you've just stuck a dual clutch in an R34. But most things are not moving around. They're stitched how they should be stitched, and everything works as it should. I mean, so far, it just feels like a smaller, lighter R35. The R35 that everyone really wants. I don't know how much enthusiasm is still left for the R35 GT-R after all these years. And this car really just revives that enthusiasm. And kind of, this car's shown me that with these small tweaks in wheelbase, in feel, that it's possible to create, it would be possible, hopefully, to create the next generation R35 and have it just be a little bit closer to what we remember the R34 GT-R to be. It's priceless. This is a truly priceless car. Adam, I can't thank you enough for the seat time and the owner of this car. Thank you guys so much. If you guys want to go check out Adam, you know where to find him.
It was definitely worth it. It definitely brought my knowledge on how to do these bigger projects. So I'd feel more confident doing different body swap projects on other cars. But as for if someone wanted to do this themselves, I mean, I've been doing this job for 25 plus years now. I've been doing machining and mechanical work my whole life. My family grew up rally racing cars and stuff. So this is in my blood, and I've got a sense of pre-thought on how to get to a certain point. I know the steps of how to get to the finished product. If you were to dive into a project like this, you'd probably be in a bit too deep.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is also a build vlog, Adam Turbo 1 on YouTube.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Okay, I did not know that.
So
That's awesome.
this is basically, I never did a finale video of the car done. So this can be the finale of the car completed.
All right, so rewind. Don't watch the video. Forget you watched the video. Go back to the original build video. But yeah, you guys, good luck in maybe replicating this, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the video.
Thank you.
See you next time.